And the reason why we put this together is because I know and you know we all make excuses, but we want to help you, to help us to let go and to move beyond our excuse making so that we can live out our extraordinary purpose. Because excuses can so easily just become intertwined into our lives, and as we see the power of excuses, but we want to help you to let go and to move beyond the excuse making so that we can live out our extraordinary purpose. And a great place to start is to look at what is an excuse. And we know what excuses are, but another way to put it is excuses are a crutch, maybe a wall we hide behind, or a lie we tell ourselves. Like sometimes we have this excuse that we use time and time again, and it soon becomes a crutch. It's something that we lean on. It's something that we can always rely on to get us out of different situations. And to talk, as we think about crutches, Pastor Jamie was supposed to be preaching today, but he has actually ended up in crutches. He plays rugby every Friday night, and on Friday night past, he popped his Achilles, which was not fun at all. He said it sounded like a firework going off. He just heard this big pop. So he's in A&E, he is in agony, he is sore, he's in crutches. And he was like so determined, he was like, I'll just get like a seat up here and I'll preach and I'll get someone to just lift me on it and I'll be fine. And we were like, please just relax, take the week off. So please pray for him. He's got an MRI on Monday. So there's either two ways. It's either a tear or it's torn. So if it's teared, it's a month recovery. If it's torn off, it'll be about 6 months recovery. But he gets a brand new boot out of it. All the women love brand new boots, okay? So just pop your Achilles, you'll get a brand new boot for free, but you only get one of them. That's only downside. So Pastor Jamie is in crutches. He's using them to lean because he can't use his ankle at the minute. And sometimes we do that with excuses. We lean on them. We use them as excuses to get out of things. They're also a wall that we hide behind. They sometimes feel safer to just hide behind an excuse. Sometimes we're afraid to do something. Sometimes we're just weary. And we hide behind our excuses and we allow them to take the hit so that we don't need to take the hit. And excuses is also a lie that we tell ourselves time and time again. We use excuses and then we begin to believe the excuses that we say about ourselves. And we know this, that often we believe in our excuses so much that we begin to believe in them. Time and time again, we say it over and over again, and that becomes truth in our lives. So the more we make excuses, the more they become truth in our lives. But maybe you haven't thought deeply about excuses and why we make excuses and how much excuses change the direction of our lives. But there's a difference between a reason and an excuse. Like sometimes we have perfectly good reasons why not to do something. But a lot of the times we just try and create a perfectly good excuse. And there's a difference. Sometimes there's a reason why we shouldn't do something or we can't do something. But so often we get that mixed up and we excuse ourselves and try and get out of things. And we can see this a mile away. We can spot an excuse a mile away. We know when our kids are doing it. We know when our friends are doing it. We know when our boss and anyone around us is making an excuse. But we can't see it 6 inches away in the mirror. And yes, I say mirror because I'm from Belfast. I don't pronounce it mirror. It's pronounced mirror for where I'm from. But we can't see it 6 inches in front of us. When we make an excuse, we think it's perfectly reasonable. But when someone else does it, we call it out for what it is. Stop making excuses. Why are you making excuses? And we can see it from other people a mile away, but we can't see it within ourselves. And so often with our language, we say the reason is. So if someone's asked us to do something, we always try and say, oh, the reason I can't make it. And we give this nice reason that we think we have. But actually, most of us never say, my excuse is. And we all know people that always make excuses. Whether it's you're always asking them to do something, to go out, to just simply be somewhere at a time, there's always an excuse. And maybe it would be helpful if we changed our language from, instead of saying, the reason is, I can't make it because. Why don't we change our language to say, my excuse is? it will highlight to us how often we use excuses. So we're gonna practice it now. We're gonna say together, my excuse is, just to help us maybe change our language. And if we do this in our lives, maybe it will highlight, actually, I make excuses all the time. I can't do this because, I can't go there because, I've never thought about doing this because. So after 3, we're going to say my excuse is, just to help us get it off our chest and just help us to realize how much we say this, but we actually mean this. So let's say, my excuse is. And if that just becomes our language, instead of saying the reason is, and we think, oh, I'm coming up with a great reason, we actually, if we change our language, it helps us realize how much we make excuses. And I know for me, I make excuses on a weekly basis because our location pastors, Jamie, Sam, Julian, they all invite me to play golf every single week. So every single week, I have to come up with an excuse of why I can't play golf because they love it. Julian wasn't good, and now he's at that stage where he's getting good, so he's enjoying it more. But I'm just at that stage where I don't enjoy it. Like, who thought 18 was a good number? Like, why 18 holes? Like, I don't think that's like 9, maybe. But if I could choose, it would be 3. Like, after 3 holes, I'm done. And I have to create an excuse every week as to why I can't play golf. Guys, it was a busy week. Or Caleb's not well, or this, that, and the other. And I always try and come up with excuses. And that gets me out of golf for a while. But my dad tries to get out of flying. And maybe you're the same. Maybe you just make excuses why not to fly. And he used to fly when he was younger, and he flew. We put him through a fearless flying course. And that sounds forced, putting him through it. We signed him up to a fearless flying course, and that just helps people understand what the noises are, how to deal with like your anxiety on a plane. So we put him through that, and he went on a flight, and now he doesn't do it again because he's made up an excuse time and time and time again that maybe it is based off fear, maybe it's based off something else, but he's created excuses. So instead of saying, I won't fly, now he says, I can't fly. Like, that's just not me. I could never possibly do that. And he's learned to believe the lie that he can't fly. But he's done it before, and he's done it a few times in the past. So why can't he do it now? And that has stopped him from flying all over the world. As a child, the furthest we got was Holland. But we had to drive from Belfast to Scotland, all the way through Scotland, all the way through England, get a boat from England to France, then drive through France and drive all the way to Holland. And it took us like 4 days to get there and 4 days to get back. And we loved it at the time, but it's just stopped us going like around the world. And what's worse now is a few weeks ago, his company, and he works for a company that builds airplanes. So I don't know if that tells us the state of the airplanes, or hopefully it's something internal in him. But they were like, we will fly you to Canada to help train people in the department there. And he said no, because he can't fly. And what made it worse was he gets it all the time. You could go here, you could go there, all expenses paid, nice hotel, you'll get your pay at the same time. And this time he was able to take my mum, and he still said no. And it stopped him from having opportunities to fly all over the world. And I don't know where you sit in the fence. Maybe is that a good enough reason? Or is that an excuse? Is it a good enough reason that he doesn't want to fly because of fear? Or is it just an excuse? And sometimes we dress up excuses as reasons. We dress them up and we think, oh, okay, like if I say this correctly or if I put a sob story around it, it will sound like a really good reason why I shouldn't do what has been asked of me. But is it possible that our excuses are connected to our fears, our insecurities, or past events? Think back to excuses that you've made, the excuses that my dad has made about flying. That excuse, is it connected to fear? Maybe a past event, maybe it's a past flight that didn't go so well. Just think about your excuses. What is it? Is it connected to fear? the insecurity, past events. Why are you making the excuses that you're making? And our excuses determine our behavior, our reactions, and even our overreactions. How we react is so connected to our excuses. So my dad's behavior has changed because he will never step foot on a plane. And it could be as simple as that, or it could be that because you've been hurt in the past by someone, then you don't put yourself out there. You don't go for jobs. You don't connect with people. You don't want to try new hobbies because you don't know what could happen. Maybe there's an insecurity, so you don't try new things. And it's all based on these excuses. And they determine our behaviors. I don't want to try that. And maybe that's something that someone has said to you. Oh, you should come to church. You could try it out. It's going to be amazing. And maybe because of fear and insecurity, that has caused their behavior to be like, no, that's not who I am. I would never try that. Or maybe they've been hurt by church in the past, and when you talk about church, there's a reaction in them because of maybe past hurt. So what are your excuses doing to you? How are they determining your behaviors, your reactions, and your overreactions? And so often we respond to situations not from a place of reason, but from excuses. Sometimes we think it's reason, but it's wrapped up. We package it nicely to be a reason, but in reality, it's an excuse. And we end up blaming something internal on something external. Maybe it's a simple excuse like, I'm busy. But actually, we blame it on something else, but it's something inside us. It's a pain. It's a hurt. It's a way that we feel, but we blame it on something external. Oh, my baby wasn't sleeping this week, or my wife told me I couldn't go, or this. And we always try and make it external, but maybe actually something's going on inside. Maybe there's an internal reason why we're making these excuses. And excuses create walls. And we try and put excuses in front of us to protect us. Because if we're behind something, then I feel more safe. I feel more in control because I can poke out as much as I want to. And we try and create walls to make us feel safe. But those walls enclose us. And we become trapped by our own excuses. We become trapped by the walls that we put around us, so our life feels small and safe, but also causes it to be small and insignificant when we try and keep it safe, and we don't want to push out or break through the excuses. Because our language changes as well. I won't fly. Changes to I can't fly. You've now taken it on as a personality trait, or saying things like, I'm afraid to try, becomes, that's just not my thing. So anytime someone asks you, it says, that's just not who I am. So instead of saying, oh, I'll give it a try, you make excuses time and time again. It becomes a personality trait. That's just not who I am. So we don't want our excuses to become intertwined into who we are. Because after a while, it becomes a reality or a because that you hide behind. I can't do that because. I don't want to go there because. And we create these becauses that get us out of situations. But after a while, it becomes a reality. The more we say it, the more it becomes more of who we are. But is it possible that you're missing out because you've walled yourself in? The excuses that you've made, are you missing out? Are there opportunities presented to you, like my dad flying across the world, that you're missing out on because you've walled yourself in? It could be small things. It could be life-changing moments in your life. But are you missing out because you've walled yourself in? But life feels safe. Life feels secure. Life feels predictable. But what are you missing out on? You're missing out on so much more, all because you are walled in with your excuses. And an excuse can become a king. It can become a king in your life that controls where you go and how you do it. And I know Irish people don't like being controlled by a king. And it's taken a Belfast boy who was part of the UK and now lives in Ireland to come and tell you that we don't like kings. But so often we allow excuses to be a king in our life. Irish people stand up. No, we don't. We're one nation. We're Ireland. We don't need the king. But yet we allow things like excuses to be our king. Do you want excuses to be the boss of you? And I'm sorry if you are a boss, but inside of each and every one of us, there's a small part of us that don't like the boss. None of us like being told what to do. So you may be a great person. You may be wonderful. But if you're a boss, there's just a tiny bit inside of each and every one of us that don't like you. But that's just because you're the boss. And you get to tell us what to do. But excuses can become that in your life. You might have a plan and God might have dreams for your life. But your boss is saying, no, you can't do that. Or you have to go this way. And excuses begin to control your life. And your excuses can hinder your purpose. I don't know if you know this, but God has created you on purpose, for a purpose. And our excuses can hinder you from living that out. God has created you in such a beautiful way that He has a plan for your life. And your excuses can stop you living in that plan. But we also know that your purpose is connected to your willingness. I don't know, like maybe you have a plan for your life. Maybe you have a plan for your family, for your business, different aspects of your life. And you have a plan. And to see that plan fulfilled is connected to your willingness. How much are you willing to do to see that plan fulfilled? It's like maybe you have a plan that next summer you will finally get that summer body. You'll be ready to lie by the beach and you'll be summer ready and it'll be great. But you have to be willing to work out. You have to be willing to eat healthy. You have to be willing to do the right things. So your purpose, your plan that you have for your life is connected to your willingness. If you're not willing to invest in your business, if you're not willing to put the hours in and the hard work, well, then you won't see your plan come to fruition. So the excuses hinder us from our purpose, and our purpose is connected to our willingness. So the question I want to answer today is, how do we break through our excuses? How do we make sure that they don't wall us in, but actually we can break through, we can kick them down, and get rid of our excuses? So how do we do that? We'll be answering it more over the next 4 weeks. But today we're going to find our answer in Hebrews chapter 12, which is a book in the Bible, but it's more like a sermon, a letter that was written to a group of Christians. And we're not sure who the author was, but we think it was connected to Paul or one of his friends, because it doesn't necessarily say this is written by Paul. So we think it's Paul or one of his friends that wrote this. So the author is trying to encourage these Christians because they're going through difficult times. And we go through difficult times. We go through difficult seasons as well. But the author of Hebrews wrote this letter to say not to use trials as an excuse to retreat from their faith. Yes, I know it's difficult. Yes, I understand what you're going through. But don't use that as an excuse to retreat. And maybe we do that in life, that when trials come our way, we use it as an excuse. Oh, it was a hard week this week. Or this has gone against me. And life isn't just going to plan. And we use it to retreat from our faith, retreat from our commitments, retreat from our relationships. So the author of Hebrews is saying, don't give up. But more specifically than that, don't give up following Jesus. If you're a Christ follower, don't let difficult times stop you from following Jesus, because He promises to be with us and for us. So we're going to read Hebrews chapter 12 and the first few verses. And the author says this. He says, let us throw off everything that hinders us. So he's using this analogy of running. And I'm not much of a runner. I have a bad shoulder. And anytime I run, before I get out of breath, I feel like my shoulder's about to fall off. And it's just been a pain that I've always had. My mum thinks it's from birth. And I'm like, oh, why can't I not just run? So I would love to be able to run. But literally, I start to cry because my shoulder is so bad. So I'm not used to running. But anytime I even walk, like maybe you have a backpack on, maybe you're traveling, or you've got something that's hindering you. You know that feeling of being able to just take it off. That we can get rid of this bag. We don't have to carry that anymore. So he's saying, as we're running, you know that feeling of getting everything off so that you can run more freely. So he's saying throw off everything that hinders, anything that stops you, anything that makes it more difficult, because things that hinder are mostly heavy. Things that we need to get out of the way, things that stop us from fulfilling the plan and purpose God has for us. Or even if you're not a Christ follower, fulfilling the plan that you have for yourself. So let us throw off everything that hinders us. Maybe you're trying to learn a new skill to start a new business. Maybe social media is getting in the way. Throw it off. Maybe you're in an unhealthy relationship that's dragging you down and it's not good for your mental health. Get rid of it. There's different aspects of your life that you can just get rid of. And there's this amazing verse in the Bible, and it says you can give it to God. You can throw off everything that that's bothering you and give it to Him because He cares for you. So we're encouraged to throw off anything that hinders us. But He goes on to say, and this sin that so easily entangles us. And if you know sin, sometimes we try and step into sin. Sometimes we try and do small things that we know we shouldn't really be doing, but I've only tipped my toe in. It's only a white lie. It's not like maybe when you grew up, before you watched the DVD, it's like you wouldn't steal a car. You wouldn't steal this, so you shouldn't steal a DVD. Like it's all these ideas of like maybe we would steal a DVD. It's like it's only like a few pounds, like whatever. But sin just so easily entangles us. It starts with a white lie. It starts with maybe stealing something small and insignificant, but it just entangles us and can become something bigger in our lives. And the author of Hebrews describes what sin is, and he sums it up as anything that hurts someone or you. So we know like some things are black and white, and we know this is bad, this is good. So just stay away from the bad things, because that's sin. Sin is anything that hurts someone or you. And lying is one of those sins. Lying breaks trust with people. Lying breaks relationships down. Lying hurts other people. But also lying to yourself is a sin because it hurts you. When you lie to yourself, when you make excuses, it hurts you. It hurts the potential that you have. It hurts the relationships that you have. It hurts who you are. So lying to yourself is a sin because it hurts you. And an excuse is a lie we tell ourselves about ourselves. It's like we have this conversation with ourselves every time we make an excuse. And it's a lie that we create about ourselves. It's like just staring yourself in the mirror and saying, you're this. You're that. But every time that we make an excuse, it's a lie we tell ourselves about ourselves. And he goes on in Hebrews 12, verse 1, he says, and then let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. God has a race mapped out for you. Like He's got a path directed for your life. And sometimes we don't even want to look at it. Sometimes we don't even want to be a part of it. But God has a race marked out for you, a perfect plan for your life. He created us, so it makes sense that He would know our lives better. He would know a better destination than we could ever know because He has created us. So it says, run with perseverance the race marked out for us. This race that He has marked out for us, we use the language extraordinary purpose. God has an extraordinary purpose for you. He has a plan and purpose for your life. He has created you and knit you together in such a way that He has a perfect plan for your life. And He's just saying, run with perseverance towards it. Whatever you do, just run and keep running and don't give up. Persevere time and time and time again. When it's uphill, when it's downhill, run with perseverance. And you know this even if you're not a Christ follower. The plans that you have for your life are going to require perseverance to keep going. When the bank says no, when the climate doesn't make sense to start a business, whatever it is, run with perseverance. So we all have this race marked out for us that we call extraordinary purpose. And our prayer for you is that you would discover this extraordinary purpose, this plan that God has for you. But we also need perseverance because it is essential to keeping you on track. So this path that God has created for you, this extraordinary purpose that He has, it's going to require perseverance. Because when excuses become the boss of our lives, it's going to tell us to go this way. It's going to say, no, you shouldn't go that way. Why not try this? Oh, you don't want to go that quickly because you haven't got it all figured out. Maybe you'll lose. Maybe it will hurt you. And we create excuses that hold us back from running the race that's marked out ahead of us. And we just keep continuing to make and develop excuses. So we need perseverance to keep us on track. And Barack Obama, as we all know, the American president, says excuses are tools of the incompetent used to build bridges to nowhere and monuments of nothingness. Like when we create excuses, we might be putting all our effort into something, we might be building something, but then we come to realize that we've built a bridge to nowhere. That excuses are leading us to build a life, a moment of nothingness. But God wants to lead you into a way everlasting, to life and life to the full, not a bridge to nowhere. Yes, you may be in charge of the bridge. Yeah, you may be able to build the bridge that you want to build, but it's a bridge to nowhere. But God wants to lead you into life and lead you into purpose. So don't waste your life on bridges to nowhere and monuments of nothingness. So if you're not a Christ follower, that's for you. It's good advice. It will help you get rid of excuses. But if you're a Christ follower, He adds something on to the end. And He says this. So He says, let us throw off everything that hinders us and the sin that so easily entangles. So let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. But Christ followers, we're told to be fixing our eyes on Jesus. So as we do all these things, as we get rid of excuses, as we run with perseverance, as we live out our extraordinary purpose, fix your eyes on Jesus. Another way of saying this is stop focusing on yourself. We're so inherently selfish that we think about me, about my comfort, about what I want, but that holds us back from living out the plans and purposes of our life. But what the author literally means is not just looking to Jesus, yes, that's one way of it, but also looking away from other things, such as excuses, fears, failures, lack of opportunity, and even a disability. Maybe you have a disability and you think, that's me. I can't do anything about it. And what you believe about yourself is how you act. But we know people, and we've seen movies, and we've seen like in the news of people who don't let their disabilities hold them back. Because it's all about their mindset. And they do what they can do with what they've been given. So as we're encouraged to look towards Jesus, we take our eyes off ourselves, but also take our eyes off all these other things. And there's stories in the Bible, and we see Peter do it. He walks on water, and he starts to sink as he looks at all these other things that are taking over his life, all the fears and excuses in his life. So he's saying, as we run with perseverance, as we live out our extraordinary purpose, put your eyes on Jesus. And if you're not a Christ follower, I want to encourage you to, why not give your life to Jesus? Why not look at Him? He's the author and perfecter of our faith. And He's got a good and perfect plan for you. So why not look to Him? He is the creator of heaven and earth. He created you and me. So His plan for my life is better than the plan that I have for my life. And when will we stop hiding behind the why nots? The excuses that we make, the why nots of why I can't do this, why not this situation, why not? Here's the why nots of why I can't do what you're asking. This is the why nots of why I can't launch that business. This is the why not I can't invite people to church. This is the why not I can't step into my extraordinary purpose. But why not change it to begin asking, why not? Why not me? Why not now? Why not forgive? Why not try again? Why not pay off the debt? Why not be honest with Him? or her. So instead of making excuses, we look for opportunity and ask, why not? What used to be why not? I'm not that sort of person has become a, why not me? Why couldn't it be me? Why couldn't God use me? Why couldn't it be me and my skill set? Why not me? And this change of language changes our outlook. Instead of being people of excuses, we're people of opportunity. And we know this to be true, that the people who do the most good are often the people who had the most legitimate reasons not to. We've seen them in the paper. We know them maybe in our friends and family circles. We see them, they've got movies made after them, because the people who do the most good are often the ones that have the most legitimate reasons why not to. And as we read their stories and watch the movies, we're inspired that everything that was against them, that didn't matter, because they lived for more. They didn't use excuses to protect themselves. So instead of manufacturing excuses, they did what they could with what they had. So what are you doing with what you have? Like what God has given you, what are you doing with it? So why don't you be one of those people who decides to live a life without a fabricated reason or an excuse? Changing our language of my excuse is will help us realize I make excuses all the time. Do you want a promotion and work? Not me. Like that would mean more time, and that would mean more this, and I would need to work harder. And we have excuses. Oh, you should start that business that you've been dreaming of. The bank's maybe not lending. It's not a good time. The mortgages are up. It's hard to find a home, and business isn't good at the moment. But why not? Why not? Why can't we be one of these people who decides to live a life without a reason or an excuse? And the harsh reality is people who make excuses rarely make a difference, because they're just inside the box that they've made, their small, insular, insignificant life. Because anytime they've been asked to go into greatness, asked to step into their extraordinary purpose, they've made an excuse. So instead of living larger, instead of going into all the things that God has planned for them, they shy away. They hide away. They hide behind their excuses and don't want too much to change. And we all can be that way. But excuses keep us from being engaged. We hide away from people. We're not fully connected with one another. They make us small. They make us just insular and small-minded, and we just want to protect the walls that we've created. They rob you and they rob others. They rob others off you. They never get to know the real you because you're always making excuses. You're never fully connected. You're never pushing in your plans and your purposes for your life. And that's why we're making such a big deal about connect groups, because we want you to connect with other people. We want you to stop making excuses. We want you to live larger. We want you to be encouraged to step out in faith and in courage and in boldness to fulfill the extraordinary purpose that you have for your life. And it's amazing, like we see this in the business world, like people have mentors and people in their lives that are able to just keep them on the right track. That it's like, no, don't go that way, you should keep going this way. Oh, I wouldn't try that, keep going this way. And that's what connect groups are for us, that we get a people around us, that if we see the goal that God has planted in you, the purpose that you have, and you try and make excuses to get away, they'll say, no, we can do this together. No, come on, I will help you. God has got better for you. Like this week may be hard, but I've got your back. So our connect groups are just amazing places that will just help keep you centered on the race that God has prepared for you. And maybe you're not even ready to start that race. Maybe you think, no, I don't want to live out the plans and purposes of God. Well, your connect group can still encourage you to live a bigger and better life, to take opportunities, to stop shrinking away, and to live a life without excuses. But we know that there's a relationship between our ability to run the race with endurance and our willingness to acknowledge and address things that hinder us. It all takes perseverance and endurance to keep running the race. And if we've got that spirit within us, then that translates to our willingness to acknowledge and address the things that hinder us. And we see it in other aspects of like sports training. Like sports people can change the tiniest thing, and it might shave off like 0.01 of a second. But that could be the difference from first and second. And they're putting all this work in because there's that small thing that hinders them. And we see it in business and we see it in other aspects too, that there's small things that can hinder us. But if we're willing to do the hard work, even to just change something, it's like a rudder on a boat. Like that tiny thing can change the direction of the whole ship. So how willing are you to acknowledge and address the things that hinder us? But as Christ followers, there's a relationship between our ability to follow Jesus, our steadfast faithfulness, and our willingness to acknowledge and address things that hinder us, including our excuses. Life requires perseverance. Life requires us to keep going no matter what. But use that spirit, use that perseverance to also be willing to acknowledge and address those things that hinders us. So as we come to a close, I want to wrap up and answer this question. So how do we break through our excuses? How do we not just have a life full of excuses and reasons that we create, but how do we break through them? How do we get rid of them? And we'll expand upon it every week. But simply I want to tell you today, we need to shut down the excuse factory. The factory that we have inbuilt in us, we need to shut down the excuse factory. Fire the boss, kick them out, stop creating excuses. Whatever that may be, maybe it is to get a connect group around you because other people will see excuses in you before you will see it in you. It's easy to see it a mile away than see it in ourselves. So surround yourself with people who can do that. Or maybe you just need to stop making the same excuse you've used all the time. Maybe it is based off fear, insignificance, insecurity, past hurts. Maybe just talk to someone. Maybe it is like my dad, he was afraid of flying. We put him on a course. So he's like, yeah, I could do this. And he went on a flight. Like we told him, just go to like Liverpool, like 40 minutes, like it'll be quick. But no, he decided to go to America. So his first flight was like 7 hours. And then he hasn't flew since. But we know that if he deals with the past, deals with this issue, then he could do it again. So maybe you're like that and you've maybe tried to work on it. Tried to stop making excuses, but you keep falling back. I want to encourage you today, persevere. Keep going. Yes, you might be knocked back. Yes, you might have tried and you feel like you're taking a step back. Just keep persevering. Keep going. God has got a plan and a purpose for you. So we need to shut down the excuse factory. Because excuses weigh us down. They hold us back. And they rob us of our potential. The excuses that we make change our identity sometimes because we create a false narrative of what they do in our lives and who we become. Instead of saying like, I can't, it's I won't. And we create a personality because of that. They hold us back. The plans that you have, the plans that God has for you, when we make excuses, they hold us back from that. And we lose potential. That robs us of our potential. Maybe you've known someone who's young, full of potential, and you've got this, you can see them like, if you just keep working hard, you'll be able to get to your dream. You'll be able to represent your country. You'll be able to beat this record only if they put the hard work in. And you see that they start with potential and then they make excuses. I don't want the hard work. Oh, I don't want this. And you hear it time and time and time again in professional sport. They started off with so much potential, but they just weren't professional. They started with so much potential, but they wanted to party with the boys. They wasted all their money, and there's excuses that stop them living out their potential. So we have to let go of that crutch and break through the excuse wall that we often hide behind. Instead of leaning on these crutches, throw them away and lean and rely on God. Let's stop trying to dress up our excuses as reasons. Let's not just keep taking what we say as an excuse and putting a bow around it, making it look nice and saying, here's the reason why not. But you know that it's just an excuse. So let's stop trying to dress up our excuses as reasons. And as we said, there's a relationship between your ability to follow Jesus and your willingness to break through these patterns, these bad habits of just excuse after excuse after excuse. So the question I want to ask is, are you willing to shut down the excuse factory?